How ready do you think humankind is for this technology?
No comment.
How could insurance have this impact of shaping how AI systems are deployed?
AI deployers are not really considering safety as a primary aspect of their solution. And we think the reason for that is it's not aligned directly with profits.
Maybe the most difficult part of the problem, figuring out what's the likelihood of a certain event, what's the risk associated. That's a very hard problem, but also a very interesting problem.
What is the actual risk? We should be able to put an actual price, a dollar value on what the risk is. And if you have a price on it, the next question is how do you lower your premium and accomplish the goal we're after, which is to reduce harm to end users.
Great to have you both here. So I'm here with Luca and Daniel. So Luca spent 4 years at Oxford and CERN analyzing particle collisions, and then you pivoted into finance. And Daniel studied applied maths at King's and then price derivatives in the finance industry. And you both worked as quantitative analysts at Bank of America. And now you're building Exona Lab, which helps insurance companies price AI risks. And you joined Blue Dot's Incubator Week 2 months ago, our first ever Incubator Week. And you ended up winning a grant from Blue Dot. And you've also won a grant from Innovate UK, and both to develop your AI risk engine. And yeah, we're really excited to have you both here today and to learn more about your stories and your journey into this field.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'd love to start with both of your backstories. So yeah, Daniel, do you want to kick us off? What is your backstory? What is your where are you from? What's your origin story, and what's your journey that took you to here?
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually originally from Hungary. I grew up in Budapest, and then I moved to the UK to study my undergrad and my master's degree. After which I joined Bank of America as a quantitative analyst, and actually that's where I met Luca. We were in the same team. Over time, I've become really interested in AI, and I left my previous job around a year ago to work at the intersection of AI and biology. And I was part of a really interesting research lab at Imperial looking at bone marrow dynamics. But at the same time, AI safety has come up on my radar. And I think AI safety is a really important topic. And we were exploring some ideas about in AI safety on what to do specifically. And we're here now. We're looking at AI safety for the insurance industry, and effectively how we can enable insurers to better underwrite this novel type of risk and help them risk mitigate.
And yeah, Luca, I'd love to hear what's your backstory as well.
Sure. So I'm Italian. I've studied physics at uni, and I was very fascinated with how things work and in general how nature behaves. So I decided to do like a PhD in a very exciting moment of time. So right after the Higgs boson was discovered in Geneva, the accelerator was about to collect five times more data as ever has been recorded, and twice as much as the energy. So it was a very exciting moment and place to be. And we actually end up measuring what we were looking after. So overall, very happy with those years. Then I decided that I wanted to gain some experience from the corporate world, and ended up moving at Bank of America. I stayed there for 4.5 years. It was a very formative experience. I learned a lot from the colleagues with whom I share like a similar background. In fact, in our team, they were mostly either former mathematician or physicist. So it was, I would say, a smooth transition. While I was at Bank of America working with Daniel, it was very nice, the collaboration, and we also brainstormed ideas. And I think back then we started thinking about an enterprise or a startup could look like. Fast forward today, yes, we are really passionate about AI safety and what we can do in this space.
Maybe to learn more about your backstory, Luca, I'd be curious for more information about your path into physics. What inspired you to become a physicist, and what are you most proud of from that part of your life?
I grew up near Bologna, and from near where I lived, a lot of industries in the racing competition are based. So you have like Lamborghini, Ferrari, Maserati. Growing up, there was always a desire to understand how these fancy machines work. Later on, I understood that actually my desire was to understand how nature was working, and that's where kind of led me into physics.
And what are you most proud of, or what did you enjoy doing the most when you were working as a physicist?
I think the discovery that my team in the Atlas collaboration managed to bring on was a very happy prize for us, for me. Those days were precious.
What was there like a specific moment when the data came in, or when you made the kind of discovery?
Indeed. So in particle physics jargon, we talk about unblinding. So you structure your whole analysis. You basically create a framework that allows you to, once everything is under control, to unblind your analysis and check whether in the signal region you have your signal, your particle that you're looking after. And yeah, that day was very exciting. I still have the picture of me unblinding with the rest of the team, and seeing that yes, the Higgs boson was there decaying in bottom quarks as we expected.
Daniel, you spent 3 years in finance,
Yep.
but then you decided to leave the finance industry to do your Masters in Research, focusing on bioengineering and AI. I'm curious, what was the motivation for you to leave what I presume would have been a high-paying job to then go back into academia? What was your motivation and story there?
No, you're correct. So my main motivation was that I was kind of getting a bit bored of the job. I figured that while I'm still young, I can probably take more risks, as in that what I can do this year is I'm probably not going to be able to do it for as long as possible. So I had a really good opportunity to work with a fantastic supervisor who's like a world-leading expert in biophysics for a 1-year period. I knew that I always enjoyed research, and just things aligned really well for me to take a bit of risk and work in more of a research-oriented university setting. And actually, I had a really good time. For over a year, I worked closely with like a frontier biology research group who study the bone marrow. Bone marrow is a really exciting organ, and unfortunately, it's a bit understudied. But they're making good efforts into it, and I was really lucky to be part of the team for a year.
And what were the main learnings or takeaways for you from that experience?
Well, I didn't really have a biology background before it, so I had spent like a good couple months in the beginning just learning fundamental biology things like how a cell works, or even what is a cell and what kind of cells there are. So it was a steep learning curve in the beginning. I mean, in the end, I saw videos of live bone marrow dynamics, which is like super rare and actually really difficult to make. And like it's a really beautiful organ to look at.
Could you explain for the audience what is the bone marrow, and why is the bone marrow an important organ?
So sure. So the bone marrow is actually kind of the red matter inside our bones, and it is responsible for 90% of the cellular turnover a day. It's a really efficient system. It's only about 80 calories of the daily expenditure to produce all these new cells. There's only like a couple thousand stem cells that result in like 10 to the 13. I don't even know how to pronounce that number of like mature cells. So it's a really it's a really complex system. There's a lot of things going on, but still at the same time it's super highly regulated, and there's just a lot of things going on there.
So if I was to say this in even simpler terms, so the bone marrow is like inside what we think of as the bone.
Yes.
It's like the part of inside, and that is producing a bunch of cells that we use. Is it right that it's primarily red blood cells, or is it all kinds of different cells that are produced in the bone marrow?
So it produces blood cells, which are red blood cells, but also white blood cells, like immune cells, like T cells, B cells. They all mostly come from the bone marrow.
So jumping now to your time at the Bank of America, so you were working together in the same team. At what point did you both decide that you were going to work together to start founding a new thing? I'm curious if there were any moments over the past 1 to 2 years where you both felt that we want to start a new company together.
I think there was not like a clear like point in time. I think over time we kind of realized that we have similar interests in this space, and we would both find it cool to do this kind of job. Actually, maybe one. So over the last year, I convinced Luca to participate in a hackathon that we successfully came second place in. And I guess that was probably the kickstarting event that made us like explore outside opportunities of work and kind of work together and think about like what could be exciting to build for the world.
What did you build during the hackathon?
So this was almost a year ago, and AI agents were starting to become like pretty popular, and we built kind of this framework to build custom AI agents for the users. We tried to make it like simple and transparent as much as possible.
And how come you decided that you wanted to work in the AI space at all? Going from the kind of finance world, doing biophysics, what was then the inspiration for starting to explore AI?
I think the pace of technology in AI is incomparable to any other field. So I think personally wanted to be part of this rapid development as well. Even the financial industry does not really keep up with this incredible pace.
Yeah, how different is particle physics to AI? I'm curious if you could maybe give like some examples of how different they are.
So strangely enough, particle physics is actually full of AI. It's maybe not in the form of language models, but for sure all the techniques that go into image recognition, pattern recognition in general, regression, neural networks have been adopted, I think, at certain experiments, possibly in even the early 2000s. So way before it was cool. This is because they are extremely good at recognizing patterns, and all the experiment in particle physics boils down to finding a very small signal when you have a huge background. You can figure out how that signal looks like with the help of theoreticians, but then it comes down to the experimentalists to use all the latest technologies and models to help you achieve it in the most efficient way.
And how, in terms of the pace of change or the pace of new findings, how does that compare between physics and AI, or physics and LLMs, frontier AI systems?
It's difficult to say, but I think particle physics tries to be close enough. Like, it's not frontier labs, but at the same time, it's not finance. So finance, at least in our space, takes a much more cautious approach, especially when it comes to risk modeling. So a black box is not really an option when you want to assure stability in the system. So yes, I would say particle physics tries to be as close as possible to the frontier.
I'm sure the particle physicists watching appreciate you endorsing the field. So when did you both realize that AI was worth leaving finance for, or not re-entering the finance industry? Was there a specific moment with AI developments where you realized, oh, this is a really big deal?
I think it's an interesting question. For me, probably is when I started using AI for coding, is when I like truly realized that it can be like very transformative, and it does change how I work and how I do work day to day.
And when did you start using AI for coding?
Actually, quite late. So probably at the bank is not very. They do not take technology risks. So they did not implement AI chatbots immediately. So it was probably after I left. So I would say around a year ago.
That makes sense. How about yourself, Luca?
Yeah, I completely agree on all the points that Daniel made. Coding was definitely an awakening. I think I still have an edge in certain aspects, maybe on the data analysis, but for sure on the front end development, that was extremely impressive what could be achieved.
The vibe coders come in and just replace all of the existing front end engineers.
Yeah.
So that's on realizing that AI is a big deal. I'm curious, when did the risks from AI become more salient to you, and what specific risks were most concerning to you, or the things that convinced you AI safety specifically is an important area to be working in?
So for me, I think thinking about risks comes naturally. Like all of my life, I've kind of looked at riskiness of things. Like this includes my job at Bank of America, which was a lot about pricing and understanding risk of counterparty defaults and what we can do, I guess, to first like put a number on it and like mitigate that risk. Also before it, I was kind of interested in like poker, which was really exciting for kind of how to take risk optimally. And I think similarly here, like AI is a great technology, but it comes with risks that need to be managed. And what's the best way to manage those risks?
For me, it's I would say the Blue Dot AGI strategy course gave me also opened my eyes to some of the risks that I was not even considering. Before the course, my main concern was definitely like a malicious actor gaining an unprecedented type of power to do some sort of like nefarious activities. But even the technology developing on its own presents some risk that I was not aware of, and that are definitely extremely relevant for the humankind.
What were the specific stories or resources that convinced you that AI has concerns that are not just malicious actors, but also AI itself might pose a threat?
Yeah, I think I've seen like a couple of kill chains and thinking about step by step how things can unfold and how things can also be related to bioweapon creations. I did not take into account, and this information I was not aware of it. And when it's laid out one step at the time, then it's when it all comes together.
So Daniel, we first chatted when you reached out to me, and I think also my co-founder on LinkedIn. And you were mentioning that you both were interested in building guardrails and were wanting funding for an MVP. I'm curious how you came across Blue Dot and what inspired you to reach out.
So actually by accident, I've seen it on LinkedIn, I think. It looked like an interesting course and something that I can probably like is useful, like new learnings and things like that. So it was like, well, I don't have a job, so I might as well learn something new. And that's why I got in touch.
And were you already working on the guardrails prototype, or what was the story for starting to explore this guardrails product?
I think a like safer kind of AI systems has always been on the back of our minds. But like initially we had like a slightly different approach. And when we were developing that, one of the things that came up was actually guardrails. And we realized that actually that kind of field is a bit overlooked and there's not that many exciting developments. And we were just kind of ideating and
reviewing literature general to see what could be like some sort of like interesting papers around, and we found some a lot of really nice work done in academia, and we thought about maybe we can bridge this gap also.
Yeah, something that we would have liked to use but didn't exist.
That makes sense. And at what point did you feel that you wanted to go from the corporate world to then actually founding something in AI safety? So as opposed to, for example, going to work at Anthropic or one of the other AI companies to build these types of guardrails, what was the motivation for you of wanting to found something?
Maybe I can say that for me, it was the speed, like the speed where you can achieve things as a startup. I think is unmatched with any other corporate job that I'm aware. So again, maybe it's a limited view, but definitely kind of feels that being in a startup gives you the possibility of creating what you think is important, presenting to the relevant people, and also getting the funding when it's needed.
I think for me, it's more about kind of impact and like independence. Like I guess if you are on your own, doing I guess whatever you want to do, of course you're on the one side, you're like constrained by what's possible, but I think that's like still a much bigger set than otherwise in a corporate environment. I think you have a lot more like freedom and possibilities to explore.
How tempted were both of you to try to join one of the AI companies? Because obviously they are very fast moving. They're quite insanely fast moving. There's some of the fastest growing companies ever in terms of revenue, and they also have abundant compute and resources, and extremely high talent density, and many people get sucked into these AI companies. And I'm curious what led to you guys deciding to take this alternative approach of building your own thing, or maybe you never felt the tug towards the AI companies. But I'm curious whether that was ever a temptation.
For me personally, like I never actually felt like that big of a drag from like AI companies. Like before, when I was a student, I really felt like the drag into finance, but not to AI companies. And like another reason is that next year I can always at least try to join one of them, which like if things don't work out, which is like we're aware that this is a risky thing. So if things don't work out, I can always join next year.
Yeah, I agree on this point. It's we wanted to try something, and the way that on our own terms, and a startup is the way that I think we should go.
So 2 months ago, you joined our first ever incubator week, where you worked with my colleagues Josh and Aniket to develop different ideas and test different ideas for what you could be founding. I'm curious, what did you do during that week, and how did it shape what you're doing today?
So maybe I'll start because I attended the whole week. It was really nice the week because we started from very big questions. The questions that we were trying to answer were almost existential. But by the end of the week, we tried to arrive to a point where we wanted to answer what can you build in practice where you can personally have an impact. The whole week was trying to go from point A to point B, but one step at a time. And Josh and Aniket were extremely helpful in guiding us towards this direction.
And what were the existential questions you were trying to answer at the start? And what were your answers to the existential questions?
How do you think AGI is going to look like? What can you do in order to shape it? How can you be part of the alignment problem? Do you think the humankind is ready for this type of technology, or should we wait?
How ready do you think humankind is for this technology?
To be honest, I don't have an answer.
What's your answer?
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, what was the journey from going from these big, difficult existential questions to then trying to narrow down onto what can you build? What specific types of things do you do during this week, which helped you go from this kind of big picture thing to something much more concrete?
For me, kind of click like an analogy. Cyber insurance came up while we were building the startup. The fact that once you insure something, then you have a premium, and then you have a financial incentives to bring in the best practice into a sector. So that was kind of like the spark. Then came the difficult question: is where can we be helpful, or where can we apply our know-how, our backgrounds, to solve a problem? After speaking with multiple industry experts, we quickly realized that maybe the most difficult part of the problem has many issues, but figuring out what's the likelihood of a certain event, what's the risk associated, what's the dollar value, that's a very hard problem, but also a very interesting problem.
I'm curious on the role that insurance plays. So a lot of people in the AI safety community, they gravitate towards things like AI alignment or mechanistic interpretability, or they think of working in government and trying to regulate the technology. Whereas your thesis is that insurance can have a much faster impact in shaping how enterprise customers or other people deploy AI systems and incentivizing them to deploy the systems in a safer way. I'm curious if you could explain in simple terms, how does insurance, or how could insurance have this impact of shaping how AI systems are deployed throughout the economy?
So I think you've already described it very well. So maybe it's best like illustrated in an example that if there's a client deploying like an AI solution and they're worried about the risks, they might go talk to an insurance and try to buy an insurance policy to like insure against liabilities. And then this starts a conversation around what's the riskiness of this thing. So now the insurer is best incentivized to make sure that the risks are as low as possible and to apply like risk mitigating strategies. So we actually initially started out thinking about insuring our own guardrails and providing that as a service. But what we realized is that the market is just not there yet. This is a very early market. People are not consciously, I guess, thinking about the risks of AI from an insurance perspective. And we can probably have a much bigger value add in driving that change.
So if we zoom into a specific example, so let's say I am Duolingo, and I'm trying to build an AI chatbot in my app that children will use and a bunch of other people will use, and I am worried that the AI chatbot might do crazy things. We've seen AI systems encourage people to harm themselves. There's been many concerning instances like this, and many lawsuits towards the companies that have deployed these systems. So let's say I'm Duolingo. I know that I want to deploy AI systems to my customers, but I'm worried about some of the customers suing me. What is then the mechanism that I would use? What happens? What do I do that then interfaces with your product from that situation?
So in that example, one of the things is, what is the actual risk? Like, we should be able to put an actual price, a dollar value on what the risk is. And it could easily be the case that Duolingo thinks it's much lower than the insurance company. And in that case, it already is beneficial because it provides transparency into the system. And then another way is if you have a price on it, I guess the next question is, how do you lower it, your premium? So the insurance company can offer a guardrail or any other risk mitigating kind of mechanism that would actually significantly reduce the risk of that chatbot and kind of accomplish the goal we're after, which is to reduce harm to end users.
So if we were to throw some numbers at this, so it might be that Duolingo thinks there is a 1 in 100 chance that it gets sued to the order of $100 million, let's say. And so there's like an expected cost of like $1 million every year. And they go to an insurer and they say, we want to pay some amount of money. And we think we should be able to pay, $1 million or just over $1 million to insure ourselves against this $100 million lawsuit. But then the insurer wants to know, well, is it actually 1 in 100 chance that you get the $100 million lawsuits? The insurer might think, actually, we think there is a 1 in 10 chance that there is a $100 million lawsuits. And so the insurance company then tells Duolingo, no, we're going to charge you $10 million, or some margin above that. And then your product is trying to actually help these two stakeholders actually understand how much risk is being produced by Duolingo's use of AI, and then also incentivizing Duolingo to implement things that reduce the risk so that they pay less to the insurer. Is that roughly correct?
I think it's roughly correct, but the key insight is no one knows at what frequency these events happen. And so the insurance company definitely doesn't have an idea about this. Duolingo probably doesn't have an idea about this either. And we just want to kind of come in and work with the insurers and kind of design the policies so that it provides the right framework and help them, I guess, price that policy.
Yeah. So right now nobody knows these probabilities, or they're like big guesses. And so my understanding is the insurance companies are just not covering this type of situation. Is that right? That because they don't know the amount of risk, there is no insurance for these types of situations. Is that correct? Or yeah, what's the current
situation? Is a bit more ambiguous and depends on from policy to policy. In the insurance space, sometimes they talk about silent AI. So there are certain cyber policy that might cover certain type of AI risks, but that is also very difficult to identify and quantify as well. But it's definitely part of the problem.
And so how are you then going about trying to put some numbers on this risk, or like trying to quantify the risk, given that in this story the insurer doesn't really know what the risk is, the customer, so Duolingo, doesn't really know what the risk is. How are you imagining you help these different stakeholders put a number on the risk?
We think there has been done like fantastic research in the AI safety space, and this information is extremely valuable, but somehow has not yet been propagated all the way to the insurance industry. The insurance industry has been working extremely well in the last, several hundreds of years, with a backward-looking approach, counting frequencies of events, assuming that from year to year, this frequency would remain somehow stable. Unfortunately, for this new type of risk, both assumptions do not really stand, because the speed of development of AI is so fast that what can be said, you cannot really collect 10 years of data. And even if you were to do so, the data that you will collect in the next 10 years will be extremely different from today. So we really think that new tools are required to answer this question, and a new approach fundamentally.
And so is that what you're then trying to build? Is like
Yes.
trying to figure out how to do risk modeling on a technology that is changing very quickly, where we can't do this like frequentist, like count the previous harms approach.
Yes. So I guess like understanding certain kind of risks is the core focus of AI safety. It's called evals. People do it everywhere. No one's kind of doing it with the intention to price the risks for an insurance kind of underwriter. And I guess we wanna be the company that does it.
Insurance can play this role of incentivizing different people to do things in a safer way, or to build technologies, to sell technologies, to use technologies in a safer way. But I'm curious if you could provide an example from the past for how insurance has actually played that role. What is the specific mechanism by which it does this?
So I guess one historical example where insurance was a market-driven force to enable a safer technology deployment was steam boilers. So after the invention of the steam engine, it came the steam boilers, and people were installing steam boilers in their homes, but they were also blowing up and killing people quite frequently. And it was the insurance industry, a specific company called Hartford Steam Boilers, who came up with the idea to standardize the steam boiler technology and kind of mandate that from the manufacturers. And in a way, they were only going to be insuring the boilers if they fit their kind of certification. And well, currently we have safe steam boilers. So we think this is a result of the insurance industry, although with one caveat towards AI, which is that steam boilers are a slow-moving technology, and AI is a fast-moving kind of industry. So we need to be careful.
So in this example, if I had a steam boiler in my house and the steam boiler blew up and it like harmed someone or killed someone in my family, I would then sue the steam boiler company, and then the steam boiler company would have to do this like very expensive court case and pay out lots of money. And so the steam boiler companies wanted to get insurance to deal with these types of claims. But then because there was now a new standard of a safe steam boiler, the insurance companies were able to say, well, we will only insure you such that we will then pay out in the event of a lawsuit if you build the steam boilers in this safe way, because this will then, we know that the safe steam boiler is less likely to blow up. And this then led all the steam boiler companies to build safer steam boilers.
And kill less people.
And kill fewer people. Amazing. Good. Thank you, Hartford Steam Boiler Company. For pricing this kind of risk, I'm curious, what is your edge? What is the thing that gives both of you an advantage over, for example, the existing insurance industry or other people in this space? Like, why will you both solve this problem of building good, accurate models of the risks from deploying different types of AI systems?
So we together have almost a decade of experience in pricing hard-to-price risks for in the financial sector. We were looking at counterparty defaults in large financial institutions. As you can imagine, there's not many of them. So it's a rare event that's kind of hard to price. Still, it's very important to kind of have an understanding of not necessarily the exact dollar value, but at least the magnitude of the kind of damage that could occur. So we've done that for a living at Bank of America. And we want to kind of apply the learnings we got over time there to the insurance space, and also to the AI space, which is similarly a forward-looking, kind of hard-to-price technology.
If Exona is really successful over the next 5 years, how is the world different in 2030 as a result of your work?
We really want to make sure that there is a clear financial incentive to adopt safe solutions. And safe solutions should not be an afterthought. And if we are going to be the players that would enable like an insurance industry to mature, we are confident that this mechanism will flourish. And yeah, that is our hope.
I would also add that there's a lot of space to expand into if insurance for AI becomes a big thing to regulate even frontier technology. So already natural catastrophe insurance is a very risky, very correlated existential risk that we can insure because there is a big enough market that we can just, I guess, spread out the risk. I think a similar thing is possible for AI with the help of catastrophe bonds and the reinsurance markets. But for that, like a healthy, regular insurance market is needed.
So where can the audience learn more about your work and how they can support you guys?
Get in touch with us. We are happy to chat with anyone interested in the topic. I'm sure Blue Dot is happy to make the introduction, or just find us on social media.
We also have a website, www.exonalab.com, and there you will find everything.
Excellent. So that's exonalab.com. Beautiful. Cool. Well, thanks so much, both. This has been a wonderful conversation. And yeah, wish you both the best of luck with Exona.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.